minute and just to check if I'm connected or not. So hopefully everything is gonna be good today. Internet is gonna be good, connection is gonna be good, and so on. So hopefully it's gonna be good live stream. I really thank you. I'm really thank you that you joined. Okay, so let me check all the platforms, and we'll start. Okay, and we'll start. All right, let me know if you see me on YouTube, please. Let me know if you see me on Facebook, and if I'm connected everywhere. I would really appreciate. Okay. Today is going to be a little different stream. Okay, so I'm gonna try today something different. We'll see. Yes, I will answer some questions. Absolutely. Again, good morning, good evening, good day, and good night. There's some people actually watching me in Australia, and it's like about 2 a.m. Night, right now. And I really do appreciate people connecting to me from all over the world. I've got some people from India, from European countries, and so on. Okay, Celso, I see you. Good to see you. How's Brazil today? Okay. Well, remind me where you're from. Okay, so I see from UK, Alan. So from UK, how's weather today in UK? All right, today here it's sunny, warm, even hot. Not inside, of course. I do have air conditioning, but anyway, so it's a good weather as always in Florida. I love Florida. Let me show you the progress, and I'm gonna read some of the comments. Good morning from Arizona. Mohammed, good morning. Brand, good morning. Carl, good morning. Paul, good morning. Andrew, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Okay, I never did the proper intro. Okay, I think it is a good idea just to do my intro now. Okay, so that was my intro. So today I'm gonna answer some questions, but I believe I'm gonna do it a little later. Okay, so the goal of today to introduce myself properly, because I never had any chance pretty much of introduction. I know people Google wood carving and my pictures popping out, and there's over 20,000 on Facebook who is following me. Not too many on YouTube yet. I hope there's going to be a lot more with your help. If you can share the link to those videos, I would really appreciate. On Reddit, on the Facebook groups, on Instagram, just mention me. By the way, if you want to follow me on Instagram and Facebook, just to tag me, Woodcarver Grabovetsky, Woodcarver, and my last name, Grabovetsky. Again, my name is Alexander Grabovetsky, and I'm gonna try to introduce today myself, okay? I'm gonna try to introduce myself. All right. So that white box was just, I tried to pull some of the comments. I will later on. Okay, 75 degrees, Brent. That's perfect weather. Absolutely perfect weather. In England, it's always cloudy and cool and windy. It's Britain, okay, so you always having rain. I'm planning actually to go to UK this year if everything is going to be okay. So, but anyway, so let me start. And the way I'm going to do today, it's going to be slightly different from what I've done previously. Let me know if you can hear me okay, if you can see me okay, if the picture is good, if sound is good, and if not, just let me know right away on any of the platforms. If you're watching me on Facebook, watching me on YouTube, if you're watching me on Twitch, on Twitter, I'm there. Just let me know if you can hear me and see me okay. Now, so about myself, okay? And today I called actually. Sorry, that's a Siri trying to help me. Okay, so today I called my video, it's a lockdown woodworking. And I chose that title because everybody's right now feel like they are under lockdown. Like I even watched a video on YouTube, one couple from Italy, they actually stuck in Argentina, and they said it feels like a jail, you know, just they can't move anywhere because, you know, that pandemic going on. But you have no idea what is jail like, okay? And I've been in jail, and I'll explain why and for what. And no, I'm not criminal. I wasn't in jail for you know, just committing the crime. I was in jail, you know, for what I believe and what my beliefs are, and also, you know, some other reasons. Okay, so I'll tell you a little later. But I'm gonna start probably, you know, from really what I'm at right now. Am I successful? I guess. I mean, you have to be judges. I'm not trying to say that I'm the best of the best and of the best. There is a lot of people actually in the world. They know how to carve, and they really great artists. They masters, and they know. But I achieved some success. I mean, it all depends what you're saying. To be successful. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more people more successful than I am. I'm talking about like financially, they making billions of dollars. If you just estimating success by amount of dollars in your pocket, then you know, I remember the story from the Bible. About Joseph. You know, he was in a jail. I mean, he was actually betrayed by the brothers. Then he ended up, you know, in the house of, you know, one of the famous persons, you know, Potiphar, and then he ended up in the jail. But that chapter right there in the Bible, it says God was with him, and he gave him success in everything. Okay, and I just wonder myself if Joseph was like in prison, like inmate, and God's still saying, you know, you Joseph successful. Okay, but Joseph could say, hey, come on, I don't have too much in my pocket dollar wise, you know, look at my clothes, I still in a slave clothes and so on. But yes, I mean, he was successful. He was actually the example of success, and God blessed him in all you know, what he did. Am I successful? I mean, you be the judge. Okay, you be the judge. I try my best. I've got some results. Let me show you you know, some of the work what I've done before, and you know, some of the successful work, I would say. For this piece, I've got award, you know, a few years ago as International Wood Carver of the Year. Okay, and this work is a somewhat complicated work. I mean, if you look closer, it's actually about 36 inches. About 1 meter, I would say, little over than 1 meter. Okay, for this work, I've got also some awards. All right, I was chosen. I mean, this project was actually chosen as one of the best, pretty much also like a worldwide in turnings, carvings, and object the art. I mean, I can show you a little closer of it. You know, you can see it's a really detailed work what I've done, and I think I know how to carve pretty much. I'm not saying the way I carve is the right way or wrong way, but I know how to carve, and yes, I guess I can call myself, I've got some success. Brian, I see that you're saying beautiful work. I really do appreciate that. Okay, give me thumbs up and like my video if you like to see that. Here's a little less complicated work from my school, online school. I'm just doing online right now. It's a schoolofwoodcarving.com. Both, I mean, what you see, the line and those flowers, both of those are projects for online. Those lines I'm still working on. I've got all the filming done, but I'm still working on those lines. Okay, I'm still on editing, so it's not there yet. But I mean, if you look close to those lines, I mean, all the muscles, all the muscle structures, you know, even look at the tongue. One line, tongue raises the tongue up, and another one is just down, and you can see some teeth. But anyway, but it would be probably fair to start from the beginning. Again, the subject today, I want to really introduce, okay, for people online, members of my school. I've got hundreds of people, and every week I'm having more and more people joining school. And this school is 3 years old as of today. And like not weekly, I'm actually pretty much saying that daily I'm getting multiple people joining the school. But most of those people, they really don't know who am I and why you should actually even join the school and just learn from me. Okay, so like I said, I'm a wood carver, you know, and I was carving like for a long time. All right, and when I started to carve, I was about that age. So, and that is a picture of me, by the way. All right, Carl, you're saying I'm artist, and I really do appreciate that. Thank you for all those comments. I really do appreciate, okay, those comments. Please share this link. Okay, that video is going to be more in depth about myself. I'm gonna carve today. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna talk about you know, myself. Okay, let me you know, just show you the progress of this piece, and I'm gonna take a gouge, chisel, and veiner, and I'm gonna start telling you history. I'm gonna tell you a history. Oh, by the way, that would not be a fair to not to mention. Yes, I mean, I said I am successful, and I mean, honestly, I believe I am. When I came to United States long time ago, it's like 25 years ago, almost 25 years today, and I, you know, didn't speak any English, and I started woodworking firm, and I've got you know, top 4% as woodworking firms up north. Okay, and I've got you know, today I said it is going to be about you know, lockdown woodworking. And yes, I was pretty much in jail when I was really young. I got to jail about the age of 18 for my beliefs, for what I believe. Okay, and even inside of the jail, wood carving and woodworking helped me to survive pretty much. It is survival. I mean, you can imagine 42 below zero, no heat source inside, no proper food, and I'll tell you a little more today about it. But let me get to work, and let me work on today's piece. I'm gonna tell you a little more about myself. Okay, I was born in Soviet Union, in a Russian part of Soviet Union. Okay, it's kind of interesting to be born in Russia and then immigrate to United States. I met different people in United States. Some of the people, they actually, you know, when they when they figured out that I'm Russian, so they kind of scared. Okay, I was born in Russia. I had a funny story. I used to live in North Carolina for a few years, Charlotte, North Carolina, and my neighbors, I mean, we would say good morning and good evening every day, but for quite long time we did not communicate really closely. And yes, my shop was located in my house, and the house was actually really good. It was one of the most well, I should say that it was actually in a more expensive area, in the Charlotte and so on. And this neighbor was also a successful lawyer. But one day we decided to get together and eat dinner together with the families. He invited me, my wife, and so we came to his house, and you can imagine he already knew me for quite few months or years even, and we did not communicate close enough. And he said to me, for a long time, he wondered that I am living in a good size of a house, a beautiful neighborhood, and I'm always home. He must be, doing something wrong, just to live right there. And he said, maybe you are a spy. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm actually came to United States as a refugee, okay? As a refugee, a political and religion refugee. Okay, but let me tell you from the beginning. Like I said, I was born in the Soviet Union, and for some of you, it's just like yesterday, in 1973. For some of you, I'm really young, and for some of you, 73, it's like ancient, and I'm old. By the way, I'm carving right now this area, and it's a challenging area because I do have a slope. It's moving to the ceiling, and sometimes my straight tools, they just don't work. But again, let me go back to the subject. I'm using, by the way, number 11 most of the time on this project. Number 11 and the 5mm in this case. But let me tell you a little more. 1973, when I was born. But my background, by my last name, you can probably figure this out. My last name is Grabovetsky. Okay? My last name is Grabovetsky. Yes, I was born in the Russian part, but my great-grandfather, he was born in today, it's Western Ukraine, but it used to be part of Poland. Okay, it used to be part of Poland, and my background coming from royal people in Poland, pretty much. And if you will Google, it's not going to show you too much in English, but if you Google in Russian language, Grabovetsky sword, it's going to show you the most ancient sword found in Poland. It's actually on the planet Earth, the most ancient sword, and it's called Grabovetsky sword. It used to belong to my family, to my ancestors. So they were really high-ranking people. I'm talking about the royalty and so on. But my great-grandfather, he already experienced revolution, and when communists took power over in Russia and so on, and of course all the royalty he had to give up. My family, they lost pretty much all what they had. They lost lands and everything, pretty much. Okay, and it's a great-grandfather, but the great-grandfather, he found himself in a woodworking world. He found his talent in a woodworking world, and he did some woodworking, actually, furniture and so on. They would call him a redwooder. which was common back then, working with the red woods, red color woods, which is pretty much just mahogany. Okay, mahogany. It was common for the furniture making, especially like in Chippendale style and so on. Okay, so Chippendale by himself actually used pretty much mahogany all the time, Indian mahogany to be exact. That is my favorite wood, by the way, Indian mahogany, from mahoganies. Okay, it's not my favorite wood. It's like favorite wood from mahoganies, and there's a different types of mahoganies, like hundreds of different species of mahogany. Or I shouldn't say species, but anyway, there is a sapili, there is a Honduras mahogany, there's Indian mahogany, there's different types of mahogany, and they look different. But he was a red wooder. I'm gonna check chat little later. If you wanna leave some of the comments, please do that. I would really appreciate. I read all of them. Okay. Hello to my friend Yaroslav from Poland. So I see you. Okay. But let me tell you more. Okay. So he actually not only did some furniture, but he became somewhat famous. Okay, and he traveled pretty much the world before lockdown. What I'm saying lockdown, the whole country became pretty much locked down. Okay, after revolution in 1917. So all country became locked down. And I believe I've got my talent and the love to woodwork. I mean, to work with wood from my great grandfather. I never met him. I never met actually even one of my grandfathers. I met one, but another one died before I was born. Okay, but I've got that in the blood, pretty much, like a generational, I would say. Okay, is that okay? Can you see what I'm doing or not? Let me know, please. Steven, good to see you. Sorry for mispronouncing your name last time. Okay, Richard, that's great to see you. Greetings from plantation. Greetings to you too. You're really close to me. That's good. Okay. And 1973 when I was born. Right, in a small town, pretty much. How it happened, when everything was lost after revolution, I believe, my family, a part of my family, was moved forcefully to Russian part of, USSR, to the modern country, to the modern land of Russia. Okay. From Western Ukraine, and it used to be Poland, like I said before. Okay, that part. It used to be Poland. So they were moved, and I was born in the town of Dimitrovgrad. Okay, Dimitrovgrad. It's not small, but it's not big. When I was born, it was about 120,000 people in the town. Nowadays, I don't know how many people live there, and and by the age of six, I already had some passion for woodworking. I guess I had some passion even before, because I was trying to use a knife, whittling knife, before, just to do some carving on the branches and so on. But by the age of 6, when I was 6 years old, my grandfather gave me first chisel. Okay, well, I shouldn't say he gave me, I took it, I guess, and I took it to the brick. It wasn't wood carving, it was a stone carving or brick carving. Okay, I just a carved face of I don't know who, but it was my first experience. So of course I killed completely that chisel, killed it completely. and my grandfather wasn't too happy about it, but he didn't give me a hard time. He did not. He did not. But then it was just a normal childhood, like in everybody's in USSR, a school, you know, every day, and you know, 6 days a week. So we would go to school and so on. Okay, I wasn't an apprentice of wood carver, of a master wood carver, until age of 16. All right, until age of 16. At the age of 16, I met my teacher, and he was, and he is actually, I shouldn't say, he's still alive. He is really talented wood carver and artist. He's just not a wood carver only. He is actually artist, and he used to be a teacher. He would teach you know, art, fine art actually. Okay, so he was a really talented. He is, again I said he was, he is, and he saw some talent in wood carving in me, and he knew that I already tried some wood carving. I mean, again, what can you, I mean, you can do a lot by learning yourself, but it is going to be a little different when you would, you know, you compare your own work with the masterpiece, what he did, you know, when he brought one of his pieces to me and he showed to me what wood carving is supposed to look like, it was just so amazing. I mean, I couldn't believe, I kind of like dropped my jaw. Okay, so it was so amazing what he did. Okay, and he said, well, you are talented, let me teach you really how to carve. Okay, I mean, who needs teaching? I was young, 16 years old, and he didn't know too much, but yes, I agreed. I said, yeah, I mean, I can be an apprentice. And that's like old European way apprenticeship, pretty much. I was the only student, I mean, I could say chosen one by him. And just in case if you're gonna try to find those masters from Russian land, you're not gonna be able to, because like I said, the country was completely locked down. Okay, and people from outside, they really don't know anything what was going on inside of the Russia. So you're not going to be able to find anyone like that right there. But by the age of 16, I also, you know, started to believe in something, not only, you know, what they taught us at school, but I started to believe in a Most High, you know, in the Most High God. And yes, I mean, I can openly say that. I'm not afraid, not trying to offend anybody, but I believe what I believe. Okay, and I was, you know, 16 years old when I had to make the decision. Yes, I mean, I believed in God before, but it's not like committing my life to him. I mean, I was just like everybody else, you know, just believed that he existed, you know, the Most High, and but I didn't do anything about that. I was just you know, like everybody else at the age of 16, did some stupid stuff, you know, was part of a gang. We did some really bad stuff actually back then. But life was changed. Life was changed at the age of 16. I just completely changed. I became believer. Okay, I became believer. Now, but what happened next? I was, you know, learning from him, and the way he was teaching me. I mean, just it's a real apprenticeship. Okay. It is a real apprenticeship. By the way, I'm using Gonzalez tool right now because it's so comfortable for me to use this Gonzalez tool. Okay, so comfortable to use this Gonzalez tool. Now, the way he was teaching me, he started from just a piece of paper and a pencil, and he said, sit and draw something for carving. And I spent like all day long, you know, just drawing something, you know, and just a beautiful acanthus movements, in my opinion, of course, in my opinion. And I did something good. I mean, what I thought it was just a really beautiful thing. But he would come to me and just to say, think, how you gonna carve it, okay? What tools you gonna use? How you gonna get in those areas? It could look really good on a paper, but in real life, how you gonna get? Like, for example, right now I'm working in this area, and I have to think how I can get, you know, inside and just to get a really smooth transition all the way to the ceiling, okay? How I would do that. So, and he would give me another piece of paper and just say, hey, think, you know, think like a wood carver, like a tool, what tool you're gonna use. And I spent long time just drawing, pretty much, learning all of those laws he explained to me. So design is a lot more than ability to take a pencil and a piece of paper and draw something. He taught me about really like a secret laws, I would say. And there's a lot of different laws in design, you know, a law of space, law of rhythm, you know, law of repetition. There's a different ones, and I'm actually teaching a class this year in the Mark Adams School of Woodworking. I'm gonna just do one of the classes is gonna be just the design for wood carving, because it's little different, and let me tell you why is it different. For example, I've got one element, but how are you gonna place that element in space? And in this case, I've got like a weird space. I've got the ceiling and I've got, you know, the front, and you have to place that in a space and surround with something and would still make it look beautiful and fluent. And I spent a long time just learning it. Can you hear me or not? Okay, can you hear me or not? Okay, what about Facebook people? Can you hear me or not? Okay, are you there? Let me check. Looks like yes. Okay, that is good. That is good. All right. So, okay, that's good. Stefan, wonderful. Hi, Ben. I see you. That's good. Hi, Brian. Yes, very well. Are you okay with me that I'm just carving and then telling you a story? Because, like I said, I never introduced myself, and you don't know my background, where I'm coming from, and so on. Is that even interesting for you to hear? Okay, let me know, please. If not, I'll just, you know, shut up and finish. Okay, if it's a good story or not. Okay. Now, by the age of 18, what happened? When I was 18 years old, government in Russia decided that I'm dangerous with my beliefs and so on. And yes, I mean, there was persecution. If people don't know, if you believe in something, it was a persecution in Russia, okay, for what you believe. There was a persecution. And by the age of 18, they decided to put me in jail. It was, well, actually, it was a little, well, I'm just jumping too quick. Yes, they decided to put me to jail, but I actually, one time, they put me in like an army jail, and you can imagine what that is. Okay, we're talking about 6 feet by about maybe 8 feet room. Okay, 6 feet by about 8 feet room, like 2 meters, you know, just across. But anyway, it's a really small room, and the 6 people in that room, and like 2 meters. I'm talking about 6 feet wide and 8 feet long, just a little bigger than a piece of plywood if you're in the United States. Okay, so imagine that. And 6 people in one room, of course, no beds, no nothing. I mean, you have to stay all day long. All day long you have to stay in that room. And if you sit on the floor, they would put water on the floor, cold water, for you couldn't sit, otherwise you're gonna get you know, sick. And it was November when they locked me first time. It was the first lockdown, November in Russia, in the place. It was already like a winter time because we already had a snow. We already had snow, and a small window in that small room, you know, in the size of a plywood piece. And the window was, the glass was broken. I mean, of course, it was just behind bars. You know, that window. It's not like a window. It was behind bars window, and it was broken glass, and all cold air was getting in. And you know, we had some food like once a day, pretty much, in this room. Only once a day. It was just allowed. And I did not eat. I decided to fast, you know, I decided to fast. And after a few days, I mean, that was actually interesting story. One of the guys, the army guys, he ordered just a normal soldier to shave me bald with a Kalashnikov automatic gun. There is actually a tool attached to cut wires. Okay, he ordered to shave me bald with that wire cutter. Okay, it's like, it's looking like a scissor, but scissors, but it's a really, you know, rough version of scissors. Okay, it's not like really sharp scissors. Okay, so, and he ordered to shave me because he really hated that what I believed in and so on. Okay, but after a few days, they actually tried to transfer me to another place, and they placed me for a day or so in a regular army room. Okay, with all other you know, just the normal soldiers, Russian soldiers in a room. And one of those guys in the, you know, in that room, he said, well, he actually also believes what I believe, and he helped me and organized escape. Okay, and that's a true story. Okay, it's a true story. I'm not making this stuff up. I escaped. That was an escape from a prison, and the whole I don't know how many hundreds of people, you know, they were looking for me in that city. I was in jailed. And it wasn't my home city. Actually, it was absolutely different region when they locked me down. And I was able to escape. And because I knew some people in that city who actually shared my beliefs, they helped me to hide. But it was the whole platoon. I mean, a lot of people actually, you know, who were looking for me. Because, you know, nobody wants to be punished for that, you know, imprisoned person escaped. But it was true story. I escaped the first arrest. Well, I was arrested for a few days, and then they made a mistake. They placed me in a regular room with other soldiers because they thought, you know, those people gonna kind of, you know, try to abuse me because of my beliefs and so on, and it was just laughable. But they did not. They actually helped me to escape, and I really do appreciate it. I don't even remember the name of this person, but he showed me like a hole in a building, not a building, but in a wall. There was a concrete wall, and he showed me, you know, that hole how to escape, and he helped me to jump over, and he showed me in another place right outside of that hole, you know, where I can hide for a little bit, and I did it. Okay, and you can only imagine what kind of clothes was on me and so on. It was just not funny in all. Okay, but not for a long time I was free, not for a long time. I was arrested again for the same reason, for my beliefs and for what I believe in. I remember that day when I stayed before judge, and the judge was, you know, really not interesting person whatsoever. You know, he was really rude, and he didn't want to listen to anyone. Actually, no, I should go back. Okay, there was two judges. Okay, two judges. One actually, when he heard my story, he refused to do anything with me. Okay, he refused, and he walked away, and he gave my you know, my case to another judge, and another judge who actually imprisoned me, jailed me. He was a really mean guy, really mean guy. He was laughing, you know, at anything. And by the Constitution, what we had back then, I do have a freedom of whatever I believe or not to believe, whatever I can believe and not to believe. It was right in Constitution back then. Okay, and now too. And I said to that judge, you know, in Constitution, by the constitutional, you know, you know, I do have a rights, by constitutional rights, to believe or not believe. And why would you even, why am I even here? Okay, and he laughed at me. It's a true story. He was just laughing at me, and he said, "Do you believe in Constitution?" And he laughed at me, and he gave me, you know, we call it statue. Okay, the statue is what they pronounce, and by what statue you're going to be judged. And my statue is actually was from 7 to 15 years imprisonment or death penalty. Yes, we had death penalty back then. Okay, in you know, in Russian Soviet Union. Okay. And he gave me that just because he said, so I'm a really bad person, just because I believe in what I believed. Okay, just because I believed in what I believed. And the statue was saying that I'm you know, let me remember exactly how it was saying. It's like a betrayal of the country, you know, and so on. But like I betrayed my country by, you know, my beliefs and so on. Okay, so that was the statue. All right, so let me read some of the comments. Alexander, about the book. So you're saying you want to see that in this story in the book. There is a man, Richard, in Mark Adams' school. Every year he's taking my class right there. Every year for last you know, few years, and he's exactly the same. He's saying exactly the same thing, that why I don't write the book about my story. But the reason number one, I just don't have time to write the book, and reason number two, right now I can just tell and let people in the world know actually about myself, you know, who am I and so on. Okay, so consider this video as a book, okay, that you can watch and hear. All right, and also, like with the bonus, you can see what I'm doing with my work. You can do that. So, but let me tell you about that day when they locked me for the second time. When they locked me at the second time, they took me underground. Okay, it was just like an underground jail. All right, no windows, no nothing, all concrete. Little bigger size of a room. It wasn't like a piece of plywood anymore. It's still small, but it's absolutely dark, you know, only sort of light was outside in a corridor, okay, and they wouldn't even walk us outside to get some fresh air. The building was like 300 years old, you know, building, and it was all wet, mold all over, you know, the smell is just horrible. You can't even just smell, I mean, normal air, because it was so bad right there. By the way, I've got to jail with one person, just to let you know how bad it was. With one person, same day I got to jail, and same day I got out of jail with that person, but he was internally ill, okay? So, and I don't think he's actually alive right now. The conditions were really bad, really, really bad. So, and I couldn't believe that I ended up in you know, that jail. I mean, I still, like, you know, here am I, and I can't believe in reality. Especially, I didn't do anything. You know, I didn't do anything. You know, I didn't do anything. And if you know that you are right and you still got in jail for just because you believe in God, so it just doesn't make any sense. And I was really young, 18 years old. I mean, it didn't make sense at all. It did not make sense at all. For me, it didn't make sense at all. All right. It was like underground jail for a few days. I was there. Then they transferred me to the normal jail. It wasn't prison yet. It was just a normal jail. It's a Russian jail, of course. It's not like prisons. You can't compare prison in the United States or even in Britain, you know, to the Russian Soviet Union jail. It's a little different, okay? Much different, very much. It is much different. And they transferred me to a room with about, we had about 25 double bunk beds. No, I'm sorry, no, it wasn't 25. It was just maybe about 20 bunk beds, and like about 30-40 people inside of that room, and no window outside, and the light every day is on, and we would take turns, you know, for sleeping. Okay, we would take turns, who's gonna sleep and who's gonna, you know, be awake. So, and in this place I spent a couple months, little more than probably a couple of months, in this room, but it wasn't everything is good. So yes, comparing to the previous underground jail, it was like a paradise for me. But you know, everything looked okay. You know, actually, people in jail, they were so nice to me because they knew that I'm, you know, right here not for committing any crime or anything bad, for just the beliefs and what I believe and so on. And somehow they knew that I'm a wood carver already. You know, I couldn't carve, of course, in that jail. Okay, for a few months while I was in jail, I wasn't able to carve and all. And then what happened, you know, of course, you know, I couldn't read scriptures in all. I couldn't have scriptures in all in a jail. But what happened, my mother, one day, she brought a scripture to me illegally, okay, because it wasn't legal. So she brought that, you know, to me, you know, when she was visiting, you know, a scripture. And I started to read. But I didn't start to read just myself. Also, inmates asked me to read, and I would give it to them, and everybody's right there would read scriptures, okay? Just one book, you know, and they would read it, okay? But what happened? Administration found out that we do have that inside of that cell. It's a big cell, but, you know, it was illegal. And guess who supposed to be punished? They chosen me. Well, actually, what happened before? You know, they tried to get that book away from me, and of course they got it. I mean, they they got that away. But those inmates, they started like a rebellion, not a rebellion, but they knocked on the doors and saying, hey, freedom of religion and so on, and just it was a really interesting time. Okay, but administration of this jail, they wanted to punish me, and punish me for good. Okay, when I'm saying punish me for good, I'll tell you the story what happened next, and some of you not going to believe probably, but what happened next, they took me again underground. It's like a jail inside of the jail. And it's not just a jail inside of the jail. They took me to a specialty cell where really ill people, sick people waiting to die. Okay, and they don't treat them at all, and they locked right there. From the world wouldn't even know those people exist. Okay, they cannot be healed, they can't be treated. They don't, I mean, they actually didn't treat them at all. They didn't do anything to them. I remember one of the guys, he was 18 years old, right beside me, and he had some kind of infectious disease, which is not just infection. It's like a small animals, like a small creatures would crawl inside of his body, and it's just like really small ticks. They would go inside of the body and eat alive, and then crawl out, and the body covers with the pus. All body covers with the pus, and he couldn't sleep. He couldn't eat. He couldn't. I mean, he was just crying out loud all day long and at night. Okay, so he was just crying. But the problem is with those ticks, with this disease, the problem is it's contagious. Okay, whatever you touch, if he touched something, so you're gonna get sick. So those small creatures, they're gonna crawl on you, and I mean, they don't treat you. I mean, you're gonna die. Okay, so it's a true story. And if you imagine, that room was really small also, and we had like it's a 4 bunk beds, which means it's a double height, and 2 of them like double heights on one side, then there's a small space between, and there's another 2, just a double, and it's 8 people who would never expect to go out. And I was, if you just imagine, on this side, on the upper level, and sick people on this, sick men on this side, sick people on that side, and there's a space between. And if I have to go down, I had to touch his bed. And I touched it, okay? I touched it, and I knew, there's no way, I couldn't jump, and it wasn't funny, I should say, okay? So it wasn't funny in all. But what I did, I refused to eat, okay? I refused to eat completely, but it's not refusal like I'm trying to create rebellion. It's not. It was my fast. I was trying to fast and pray and fast and pray, and that was the first time I fasted for a long time. Okay, for a few days, no food, no water, nothing, no water, no food whatsoever, because I knew, I cannot survive that just by any human means, and there's supposed to be only a miracle happen. Okay. And everybody's in this cell, even administration wouldn't, they would walk inside, they wouldn't, okay, they would never touch anybody or anything in this cell, because they knew there is no treatment and they can die also. But what happened, I did not get sick. I did not get sick, and it was obvious, okay? They looked at me, inmates and also administration, and I did not get sick. And it was something they never saw. It was the first miracle in my life when I experienced that God is actually alive, okay? And He still does what He does. Okay, I'm not trying to convince anybody, but I'm telling you my story, my real story of my life. But what happened next, administration got scared, okay? They never saw anything like that. They got scared of me, okay? That this guy is a special guy, that even that disease not touching him, and he decided to pull me out from this cell. They pulled me out. Of course, they took all my clothes. They, you know, just what they did, they used actually really hot air to kill if there's any bugs or anything, you know, on the clothing and so on. It's like we call it frying clothes. Okay, they would fry it out. I mean, that my clothing. And they actually placed me back to the same cell. I mean, the where you know, those people. Like 40, you know, or something. I don't remember exactly how many people were in that cell. They took me, and just imagine what is it? I mean, 40 people in a cell, and just the one toilet, okay, and just the one toilet for everyone, and everybody's smoking, and everybody's taking turns to sleep. You know, no window, no ventilation, no nothing. I mean, the smell was so horrible, so bad, you know, inside of that cell. We still, I mean, we still lived there and somehow kept peaceful. I mean, we did not fight. I mean, that's it's one of the biggest things probably in those times, at least in a Russian prison. People didn't fight between themselves. Okay, so that was, I guess, was a good thing. And they also really, you know, honored me, I would say, respected me, I should say, okay? They really respected, especially after what happened, you know, in that underground, you know, cell, okay? Because they heard, and in Russian jail, they know everything pretty much. They know everything what happens. I don't know how they communicate. Of course, I do know now, but I didn't know, but they knew everything. And even administration, like I said, scared of me, gave me my book back. Okay, I was openly having a Bible with me, with no problem. All right, so they would dare touch it. So that was, for me, it was another miracle. I could place my book right beside me, you know, the scriptures, and nobody from administration would touch it. I actually took it to the prison later on and openly placed that right beside my bed, and people saw it, and nobody would touch it. Well, except if they would just ask me to read, and yes, they were reading it, because it was something not like a normal religion. You know, people don't know what they believe, but I was explaining to them why I believe and what I believe and so on. Okay, so and that was a miracle for me. So I was highly respected by inmates, and I was highly respected by government, by administration, I should say, not government, but by administration back then. All right. So, but a few months later, I was transferred to a prison. It was a jail, the story before, but later I was transferred to a prison. Okay, and the prison is a lot easier life than a jail. A jail is just one cell with many people inside, but prison is a little more. Yes, there's still a lot of people in a room, but at least we would walk outside, not outside of the prison, inside like a court yard and so on. Okay, so but it's still fresh air, and it's like we call it little freedom. All right, and I had to figure out how am I going to survive in that prison, because while I was in prison, Soviet Union broke apart. Soviet Union broke apart right at the same time. And if it was really hard for just the people outside of the jail and prison, just imagine how hard it was inside. Okay, no food, no nothing. I mean, they would give us some kind of food. Oh, you can't eat that food what they would give us. We call it balanda. Okay, it's like a soup with something black in it. And if you would eat that soup, you will die from diarrhea. but not everyone ate that soup. I mean, there's some people actually they ate some other food and they survived. And I just tried to figure out, I mean, how can I survive? And I had my skills already, wood carving skills, and those skills helped me, okay, and helped me tremendously, okay. In the Bible, actually, there's a verse in Exodus. There was a guy who was building Ark of a Covenant, tabernacle, not the tabernacle, the whole thing, not just the Ark of the Covenant, but the whole thing. But it says, God filled him with the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, okay, and filled him with ability to, with all the to do all the crafts and stuff like this. And it specifically mentions wood carving. Okay, so I had to be wise. What should I do to survive and be alive? What should I do to survive and be alive? And wood carving, pretty much, that is one of the things what I knew how to do really good. Okay, that's what I knew how to do really good. It was just the wood carving. All right, and people inside, they knew that I'm capable of. And one of the inmates, he was a big mafia guy. Okay, he was a really big mafiosi, Russian mafiosi. He was already like 15 years inside of the jail, and he said, well, why don't we do something together? I'll help you. He said, I'll protect you, and you do something for me. And I didn't know back then what he did, but then later I found out he could supply me with the wood, okay? And I couldn't have any woodworking machinery or any wood carving tools, but I could make some of it, okay? So that's to answer your question. When I did a couple days ago live stream, if I ever made wood carving tools, yes, I did. And especially I had to make some tools in a jail. It's not just the tools, okay? It was pretty much just a knife. That's the main idea. And also I don't remember exactly, but I believe I did a small gouge from a nail, okay? A small gouge from a nail, that's what I did. I did the knife and I did one gouge, okay, pretty much. But I remember just using knife. It was a long time ago, so, and I can miss some of the details, but you get the point, okay? And a knife, it wasn't just a knife, it was just a really small knife. The blade I'm talking about, just that big, okay? Maybe about 10 millimeters the most. That's the knife I had to use. All right, so that was the knife, and we would just do a furniture, okay? Simple furniture with wood carving elements, and also some there's a technique I developed. It's actually taught by the teacher taught me actually to do like a 15th century staining technique. It's looking like marquetry, I would say, but it was pre-exist. I mean, it was just a pre-marquetry, okay? It's just the techniques to draw on the wood with the natural stains. And I would carve, and I would just do that technique. Maybe someday in my school I'm going to show you what I'm talking about, okay? But it is actually interesting art. I mean, one of the skills, really interesting, one of the skills I was able to do. And we did like a coffee tables, and other some furniture, beautiful furniture. And I carved, and I, did some stain work, which when you look at it, it looks like a marquetry, but it's not. Okay, and that guy would actually sell it to administration, right? I'm talking about this mafia guy. He got the deal with administration. He sold it to administration. Those pieces of furniture, and I was able to get 1 potato a day. All right, 1 potato a day. That was my diet, but it was a big deal. It was a huge deal, just 1 potato a day. We're talking about low carb diet, okay? So when I got out of jail, I was less than 100 pounds, like maybe about 80 pounds, how much I weighed, okay? So I was really, really skinny, if you can imagine. But one potato a day, it wasn't just for me. I took it as a blessing because other inmates, other people in jail, they also didn't have a food, and it was, like I said, it was bad time. Soviet Union broke apart during that time. And I would take that potato and I would go to other inmates and we would talk. We would talk about God, we would talk about other subjects, and we would boil that potato. And yes, I was probably the only one who had access, you know, to like a self-made, you know, cooktop. It's not the cooktop, it's just a couple wires, you know, and we would just twist that, roll it, and just use it as a cooktop. Okay, we were really creative how we would do that. And we would actually, one potato, we would share it with multiple guys, you know, and they really appreciated what I did, and I was really appreciated. They, you know, it's like establishing friendship inside. Like that is one of the things I learned. People, doesn't matter where they at, it's still people. You know, in jail it's still people, not in jail it's still people, and everybody's you can find friends anywhere. Okay, it's up to your choices how you're gonna live, but there's no bad people actually. That's what I learned. And yes, there's a lot of people who made mistakes, but even those people, you can find something good in those people. Okay, and I made you know, really good friendship right there in jail. Also, let me tell you what is it like inside of the Russian jail during the winter time. During the winter time, we had really cold winters. Okay, really cold winters. 40 below, 30 below, 45 below, 42 below zero. It was normal. Okay, it was normal back then. Now it's getting warmer. I don't think they get that cold. They still get 30s even now, but it used to be like 40 below and so on. Okay, and but it's not the worst part. Yes, it is 40 below, but no heat source. That was bad stuff. Okay, you would go to bed. It's when you go to bed with your clothes, which is prison clothes. I mean, it doesn't protect you from cold in all whatsoever. And in the morning when you wake up covered with the frost. Okay, a lot of people got sick just because of that. Okay, but somehow I didn't. That's why I was really pretty much respected. You know, I didn't, and somehow I survived. But 42 below zero, I mean, for those of you who don't know what that is, it's cold. I mean, right now, some people actually watching me on Alaska, and they know what I'm talking about. Alaska also gets, you know, that temperature. Canada also gets that temperature sometimes. Some areas, not everywhere, but some of the areas. So it's cold, and it's cold, but when no heat source, it's even colder. Okay, so that is exactly what happened with me. No heat source. By the way, do you see what I'm doing or not? I mean, how it develops. I'm not explaining what I'm doing. I'm just, I mean, it's not today's goal to explain what I'm doing. Okay, I'm just doing what I'm doing and introducing myself. But I remember one day when there was a, we call it putsch. Okay, after Soviet Union broke apart, like I said, I was in jail, but there was the communists, they tried to take power over again, and they call it putsch. Okay, and they attacked Moscow and you know, Red Square and so on. And but I remember when all the soldiers who actually were right there just servicing that prison, you know, from escapes and so on, they took automatic guns. They pushed everyone on the main plots, on the main court yard, and they were waiting on orders to start fire, to start killing actually those inmates, okay, because they didn't know the outcome, what's going to happen after that putsch. I remember that was a really interesting time also inside of prison, even if you already kind of get used to it, but when something happens big in a country, it's not too funny. Okay, it's not too funny to be in jail and in prison in Russia, especially. Well, I know only about the Russian prison. Okay, I don't know anything. I think it's everywhere. It's not that funny, you know. Okay, it's not that easy, I should say. Okay, doesn't matter where you're at. But I didn't know back then that that was a good thing. Actually, what happened? The Soviet Union broke apart. For me, it was a good thing. I'm not trying to say. And not trying to give you wrong ideas, but for me, it was a good thing. The Soviet Union broke apart because amnesty came. Okay, amnesty, when they wanted to release some of the prisoners, if they were, in prison for some of the political views and so on, and I was one of 42 people who kind of qualified, because I was just imprisoned for my religion, okay, for my beliefs. But what happened? I was expecting, everybody's, when we got that news, everybody's like expecting, you're gonna be released, and you get excited and wait, but let's say that release supposed to happen tomorrow, and day before, one of the officials in that prison, he locked me down again. It's like a jail inside of the prison. Again, it's the same size, like a piece of plywood, like 4 by 8, 4 feet by 8 feet piece of plywood, room. And he wanted to keep me in because he really hated me, I guess, for what I am and so on. And I thought I'm not gonna get freedom. I thought that's it. I mean, I lost my chance, because if they're not gonna let me go, I'm gonna stay forever. And he promised me, even if I'm gonna get out, they're gonna lock me again. Okay, they're gonna lock me again, because he explained that what they do, they just doing that for Western world to show that we do something good to those people. Okay, it's exactly what he said. Okay, I'm not making this stuff up. That is exactly what that guy said. Okay, and he locked me down, and I just kind of lost my hope. I did not lose belief. I didn't know what God wants from me. And yes, I didn't sleep that night. I was praying inside of that cell. And you imagine, it's a cell inside of the cell. It's a really cold room. Concrete everywhere, rough concrete. It wasn't just a concrete. It's just like, if you imagine, if you know what the stucco, rough stucco looks like, but it was made only from concrete inside of that room. So that was just the one guy from administration who really hated me. But another guy, from administration, from a jail administration, he did something good. Once he found out that I was again locked down, right like in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 a.m., I heard the sound that my cell is opening. Okay, and this guy from administration, he stayed right there, and he said, release him. Okay, to the soldiers, and they had to release him. I mean, to release me. Okay, and I still don't know why he did it. He did not disobey the orders of a higher ranking officer, but he released me, on a day when I supposed to be released from a jail in all, from a prison in all. Okay, and yes, I got out that day. Okay, I got out that day, and I was so glad I did. I was so glad I did. After a couple months, I got married. My wife, my future wife, I met when I was 16 years old, and she was my bride. But we couldn't get married until I got out of jail and so on. But after a couple months, when I got out of jail, I got married, my wife, and we actually applied for refugee status in the U.S. Embassy. Okay, and I got that status in 2 hours. Okay, so I showed them a proof that I was actually imprisoned for my beliefs, and they gave me that status, and they said you are under protection of government of United States, and that was end of the story, pretty much, I thought. But yes, we got out, we came to United States, to make that story short. But half a year later, I already live here in United States, but my family is still there. I'm talking about my brother, my mother, and my relatives, they still there. And the government came and tried to arrest my brother. They thought it is me, okay? Like, they tried to keep the promise. They said, even if you're going to get out, so we're going to still lock you down. They tried to arrest, but I'm already half a year in the United States. So that what happened with me. But in the United States, I faced another problem. Couple problems, actually. Couple problems. All right. First of all, I really do appreciate people in the United States, because it's just the people. And I found that it's a normal people. They go shopping, they buy food, and essentially they worry about the same stuff like everybody else in the world. Okay, just people are people, and they were really generous and wonderful people. I came to United States on Saturday. By Monday, I already had a job, okay, as a framer, carpenter. Okay, so they hired me as a framer, carpenter. But I didn't speak any English whatsoever. Didn't speak in all. Okay, well, couple words maybe I did, but not enough to communicate, with other workers and so on. And I lasted a couple days on that job. Yes, I got the job, but I lasted a couple days, maybe more than a couple. But anyway, you got the point. So I lasted a little bit, not much. Little bit, but not much. And I had another dilemma, another problem to solve. How am I going to support my family? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? All right. After a little bit, I started my business, pretty much. I started my business as a woodworking business. As I showed you before, I became one of the most quality woodworking firms, pretty much, in the area. Beside the woodworking firm, I did wood carving also. Okay, and we ranked high in 3 states, pretty much. I came first to Grand Rapids, Michigan. Then I moved to Indiana, to Goshen, Indiana, Amish country. There's a lot of Amish people, and I became actually a friend with some of them too. So really great people. And I started my business right there in South Michigan and North Indiana, Michiana area. That's how we call it, Michiana area. Michiana area. Okay. And pretty much the same month when I started my business, other woodworkers, and they really talented woodworkers who came also as refugees from those countries, post-Soviet Union countries like Ukraine and Russia, Moldova. They had the same problem. They couldn't find good jobs because of the language barrier, and that was a big problem. It's not like right now. I mean, everybody's in the world right now at least trying to speak English and just learning, but not in Russia. I mean, we didn't. back then. And I hired those people actually, you know, just and not to make money. I mean, it wasn't the goal. Nothing wrong with that, of course, so with making money, but the goal was actually to hire those professional, highly skilled carpenters and woodworkers and give them ability to feed the families, feed children, and so on. That's why I hired them. And some of them worked for me for a long time, like over 9 years until I moved to Florida. When I had to start all over again, you know, it wasn't funny also story, but I'm not going to tell you that. Yes, I was doing carving, and I visit all of the house pretty much, not only wood carving, visit everything, whatever is wood, kitchen cabinets, you know, flooring, all the trim work, finished carpentry and so on. And we had to be good in everything, otherwise we wouldn't survive. And by now, yes, I guess wood carving won over, you know, all other woodworking skills and abilities. Yes, I am a woodworker, you know, and yes, I had a big shop actually before, big shop, you know, with all the heavy equipment, heavy machinery and so on. And I was for years tried to do whatever, you know, pays the bill, if you understand what I mean. If they would come and they need the kitchen, I would do the kitchen, and it would be just a really high-end kitchen and so on. Okay, so for years I did you know, the cabinetry and so on. But one day actually two guys, not one, but one day one of the guys and he is one of my friends who actually worked with me in the woodworking field, and he also owns a business. He said to me, he said, Alex, you are a wood carver, okay, and you're a great woodworker, but think about how many people in the world can build the cabinets. There's a lot, okay. There's a lot of people who can do a furniture, okay, but not too many people who can carve wood. Why don't you just try to concentrate on the wood carving and carve more than you do in anything else? And yes, I was carving for a long time, you know, for clients, while I was doing, I was actually even building houses, you know. We did good, we grew really good, you know, in business world and so on. But it still took me a few years until I realized he was actually right, so I should concentrate just on the carving. There's another day a few years ago when, quite a few years ago, when in my shop, and like I said, I had a big enough shop, commercial shop I'm talking about, okay? One of the famous woodworkers, and I know that guy for a long time, for over 20 years, and he is a famous, I'm not going to mention his name, but because I didn't ask him permission, but you know, he is known, okay? He came to my shop and he said, you know what, Alex, why don't you do just the carving? Okay, because not too many people, I mean, how many years in your life you have production years, okay? Why don't you concentrate on that? And I said to him, maybe. And I sold heavy equipment and I started to carve. And when I'm saying heavy equipment, I'm talking about heavy equipment, okay? It's not just like a small wood carving shop. So it was huge belt sanders and everything, okay? Big sliding, you know, sliders and so on for the cabinets and so on. It's a really high-end, like a Felder machinery and so on, okay? So I sold it pretty much. And just started to carve full time. But I got so busy with just carving. And I became also successful in just carving too. I believe I became successful. I mean, you can agree or you disagree. That's okay with me too. But I believe I became really successful. And I got a phone call from one of the schools in the United States, woodworking schools, Mark Adam. Okay, Mark Adam called me few years ago, about 7 years ago when he called me, and he said, have you ever tried to teach wood carving? And for some reason I kind of, ignored for a couple years. It wasn't good from me. I did not ignore him. I ignored the idea of teaching because there's a barrier. I mean, for example, English is not my first language, and I'm also really super busy with my projects, ongoing projects, and I thought, well, should I even invest time in teaching or not? And I didn't consider myself as a teacher, and how I gonna teach and so on. Will people listen to me, and will they like it or not? For a couple years it was just like a dancing back and forth. But what happened, I mentioned before about the guy, his name is Richard, and he even doesn't know how I really appreciate him. And I'm gonna tell him this year when I'm gonna be in Mark Adams' school. He's gonna be in my class again, in Mark Adams' School of Woodworking in Indianapolis. That's what I'm referring to. So he approached Mark Adams and he asked him to invite me. Okay, that's why I got the phone call from Mark Adams at first, because of the Richard. Okay, and yes, it took me a couple years to think, but about 5 years ago, maybe a little more than 5 years ago, I actually agreed to come and try. And yes, he said to me, I mean, don't be afraid, don't be afraid, those people are nice people. They woodworkers, and in my school there's famous woodworkers from all over the world teaching and so on. He said, if it's gonna work out, it's gonna work out. If it's not gonna work out, it's not gonna work out. So don't be afraid. Okay, so nothing to lose. And I agreed, and I came and I tried to teach a few years ago in his school first, and I fell in love. For some reason, people took me well, and next year when I came, same people and new people showed up, and the next year people showed up, and my class was sold out pretty quickly. And I really do appreciate if you're gonna watch Mark Adams. Personally, I want to thank you for inviting me at first. Yes, then I've got the contacts from other schools also, and they invited me to teach. Okay, but that was first. But it was before I started my online school. Okay, online school, it came little later. It was also like I was afraid what I'm gonna say, what I'm gonna teach, and then one day I thought maybe what I can do, I can actually just work and approach the old European way, like pretty much apprenticeship, when people come to my shop and watch. It's exactly what you're doing right now, actually, watching what I'm doing. Although I'm not explaining what I'm doing, but you just pretty much watching. By the way, let me bring that closer to you a little bit, and you can see a little closer development. That is why 3 years ago I started School of Wood Carving, which is a school woodcarving.com, and maybe I can actually give you a link, okay, to that. So, and let me do that. Just in case if you wanna visit that and check this out. And for 3 years, I have lots of people actually joined the school. Lots of people. I did not expect that would be successful or not successful, but I guess I could say that is successful. And I am, trying to be honest. If I make mistakes, I make mistakes. If I don't make mistakes, I don't make mistakes. I'm talking about when I'm carving, and so on. But it's enough. It's enough for now. But let me read some of the chat. And maybe I can answer you a couple questions. if you do have any questions. Okay, just a second. Let me pull it. And let me see if anything interesting right here. Okay, Stanislav, you are saying that in Russian. Thank you very much for a video, and that would be nice to hear that in Russian language. I don't know. I'm not planning to do that in Russian language. There's a lot of people. Actually doing in Russian language. Most of my students, they are pretty much from all over the world, and they speak English. Okay. Okay. Let me see if there's any questions. Oh, Ben, really thank you. I really thank you. Okay. And I'm gonna pull some of that if it's okay with you. So I really do appreciate, guys, what you're saying. Okay. Steven, thank you very much. Brent, I really do appreciate, for what you're saying. Okay, there's a question. Gary's saying, I cannot get Koch blue paste here in the USA. Do you have any alternative you like? Yes, I do. I mean, you can use actually pretty much any paste. Any paste from let's say flax cut is not that bad at all. I mean, I know there's a white and yellow paste. It's not bad at all. Okay, that is good. All right. Steven, thank you very much. I really appreciate. And I think I'm gonna stop my stream right now. It's like an hour and a half. People, please don't forget to subscribe. I really appreciate that you sticked with me for an hour and a half. Some of you, most of you actually sticked with me for an hour and a half. I know, a lot of people busy, but if you're watching me on YouTube, don't forget, please, to like it, okay, and subscribe it, and hit that notification bell. Below, there is going to be a link if you want to be notified by email. Just go to my school, and it's going to be about live stream notifications. If you're not part of my school, I highly encourage you to check this out. Nothing to lose. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If you like it, it would help me. I forgot to tell you. Okay, so yes, you are subscriber of my school, but it's not all of the money go to my pocket, of course. First of all, I invest a lot in equipment and so on, but secondly, we do support, we donate. Okay, a couple things what we trying to support. One of the things we support orphans and widows. Okay, so it's an international organization where we send some of the donations. So if you become part of my school, you pretty much becoming part of that support also. There's a lot of talented children and talented children living in families who cannot afford education. I was one of them. I mean, when I was 8 years old, my father actually divorced my mother, and he was actually also in prison for a long time, and after got out, so he just left the family, and I had a talent, but my mother didn't have money to send me to any art school or anything. So we tried to find those those orphans and try to help them out. If it works out, works out. If it's not, it's not. But at least we try. Okay. So now check that out, my school. If you do have any questions, I would really appreciate if you can comment not only in the chat. I'm gonna read the chat, but it's gonna be available only like a day later when YouTube will work on my video and so on, process it. But if you would just go and comment with the questions below the video, not just in the live chat, but below the video, okay, and also about your opinion about this video, I will read it right away, pretty much, okay, and I'll get ready for the next stream. Questions related to wood carving, okay, to wood carving, either to design for wood carving, either for sharpening for wood carving, or for just the wood carving itself, related to woodworking, wood carving tools and tricks and techniques. Also share your experience. I would really appreciate if you can tell me what you do and how you do and what approach you take. Okay, let me read the last comments. Dwayne saying this was the best stream yet. Thank you very much, Dwayne. Brent, as soon as life is back and normal, I will join your school. Thank you, Brent. Today's life is normal, okay? Join today, all right? So nothing to lose. It is normal. I mean, don't expect it's going to be like it was before. But have a wonderful day, everyone. Blessings to you all, and stay safe.